In the rural village of Ndumbi, deep in the heart of Zambia, where tradition and family are the pillars of life, there exists a tale of love, betrayal, and forbidden desire. Two sisters, Chipo and Tendai, were inseparable growing up. They shared everything: dreams, secrets, and an unbreakable bond. But all of that would soon be torn apart by a love that should have never been. Chipo, the elder of the two, was married to Mwansa, a respected and wealthy farmer who had inherited his father's vast lands. Their marriage had been arranged by their families, a common practice in the Bemba culture. Though Chipo and Mwansa shared respect for each other, their love was not one of passion but duty. They built a life together based on mutual understanding, and the village admired them for their harmony. Tendai, the younger and more spirited sister, was beautiful in ways that often drew envy and admiration. She was bold, confident, and had the kind of charm that left people in awe. Although she lived a carefree life, a dark desire simmered within her heart, her growing feelings for Mwansa, a love that was forbidden. As time passed, Tendai's visits to her sister's home became more frequent. She would often arrive under the pretense of helping Chipo with house chores or fetching water. But in truth, she craved to be near Mwansa. Tendai would watch as Mwansa worked, admiring his strength and dedication, her heart pounding with a desire she could barely contain. Mwansa, initially oblivious to Tendai's advances, began to notice her more. She was always full of life, her laughter contagious, and her beauty undeniable. Tendai's playful flirtations soon evolved into something more dangerous, a seductive dance of stolen glances and lingering touches. One fateful evening, after a village festival celebrating the harvest season, Tendai lingered at her sister's home while everyone else had gone to sleep. The moon was full, casting a soft glow on the land. Chipo, exhausted from the day, had retired to bed, but Tendai stayed behind with Mwansa, claiming she wanted to help clean up. That night, something irreversible happened. Tendai and Mwansa, caught in a moment of weakness, shared a forbidden kiss that ignited a flame they could no longer extinguish. Days turned into weeks, and the affair between Tendai and Mwansa deepened. They would meet in secret places, far from the prying eyes of the village, under the baobab tree on the outskirts of town, by the riverbank at dusk. Tendai's love for Mwansa grew, but so did her guilt. She knew that betraying her sister was unforgivable, yet she couldn't stop herself. Mwansa, too, was torn between his duty to Chipo and the passion he felt for Tendai. Their secret was well guarded, but secrets in a small village never stay hidden for long. One day, Chipo began to notice changes in Mwansa. He seemed distant, often leaving the house without explanation. Tendai, too, had become more withdrawn, avoiding Chipo's eyes whenever they were together. The unease in Chipo's heart grew, but she chose to ignore it, convinced that it was merely her imagination. That is, until the day Chipo stumbled upon them. It was a quiet afternoon, and Chipo had decided to visit the river to fetch water, a chore that Tendai often took care of. As she approached the riverbank, she saw them, Mwansa and Tendai, locked in a passionate embrace, oblivious to the world around them. Chipo dropped her water pot, the sound shattering the silence, and they immediately broke apart, the guilt evident on their faces. Chipo's heart shattered into a million pieces. Chipo's world crumbled that day. She confronted them both, her voice shaking with rage and heartbreak. Tendai, overwhelmed with guilt, fell to her knees, begging for forgiveness. But Chipo's pain was too deep. Mwansa stood silent, unable to meet his wife's eyes, knowing there was no justification for what he had done. The village soon learned of the betrayal, and the scandal rocked the community. In Bemba culture, family bonds are sacred, and to betray a sister was one of the gravest offenses. Tendai became a pariah, shunned by everyone, including her own family. Even Mwansa, once respected, was now viewed with contempt. But the greatest tragedy lay with Chipo, who had lost both her husband and the sister she once loved. In the months that followed, Chipo chose to leave Mwansa, moving to a neighboring village to start anew. She found strength in her independence, slowly healing from the wounds of betrayal. Tendai, racked with remorse, disappeared from the village, choosing to live in isolation. No one knew where she went, but the village never spoke of her again. As for Mwansa, he was left with the weight of his actions, his once peaceful life now filled with regret and loneliness. In the end, the love that Tendai and Mwansa shared was consumed by guilt and shame. What had started as a forbidden flame burned through the very fabric of their lives, leaving nothing but ashes of regret. Chipo, though broken, emerged stronger, while Tendai learned that some desires, no matter how powerful, are best left untouched.